YouTube bound community, Scooped Up fans, random people on the internet. My name is Giggens, and we're here today to talk about Scooped Up's album, The Runs. Scooped Up is a pop punk trio from Southern Connecticut, and they really nail that mid to late 90s punk vibe. This album is extremely tight. I mean, the playing on this thing is seriously solid. Some of the muting on this thing, the palm muting with the guitars, is so fast, but so articulate. Like, damn. This album really brings me back to when I was like a kid because I was really into this kind of sound when I was, 10, 11, 12, 13 years old. And hearing this album reminds me of Cheshire Cat and Buddha and Dude Ranch from Blink-182. It reminds me of The Movie Life and Midtown and early Newfound Glory. Like all those groups that came out around that time really had this magical pop punk sound that didn't sound like anything else at that time that had come before, especially. But these guys are definitely fans of that era, and while they're wearing their influences on their sleeve, it's not a complete ripoff of that era. They definitely are their own band. Reruns opens up this album, and there's excellent palm muting on this thing. Like I mentioned before, the speed and the articulate precision in that palm muting is like, if I was in a pop punk band again, like when I was 14, 13 years old, and the guy playing guitar was playing like this, I'd be like, holy crap, we're going somewhere. It's a song about charging forth and moving forward, and the music definitely fits that vibe with how charged up it is. Slingshot is a really dynamic track and kind of goes to show that pop punk isn't just a one-trick pony kind of sound. The way the feelings ricochet back and forth between the slower moments and the more faster moments, they complement each other so well, and you look forward to that change. Fumble is one of my favorite songs on the record, and the intro to this song definitely has a little bit of that SR7-1 kind of feel, but the way it picks up is just like Tom DeLonge riffage. The speed on the guitars on this thing, and then the drums keeping up, everything all together is the perfect package of a pop punk song that if this was on Cheshire Cat, it would be a pop punk classic. As the song ends, it kind of explores a little bit, and there's some amazing bass riffs that go on, which works out well because the next track, Best Days, opens with an amazing amount of bass. And the whole vibe of this song definitely has that, well, I guess this is growing up mentality. M80 follows that one up next, and definitely has that, boy can't talk to girl feel, which is very common in pop punk songs because you gotta remember, like, a lot of these songs are written when you're in high school, college, early mid-20s, and so a lot of people are still kind of awkward or will always be awkward, but those songs always resonate. Joyride ends side one, and I like how the lyrics of this song are so depressive, but the music is so stoked, so it's kind of like, all right, get on the joyride. We're not having a good time, but hey, it's moving somewhere, I guess. Side 2 opens up with Foolproof, and I really like what Jimmy does with his vocals here on this one. He pushes himself a little bit, and that strain in his voice works really well to get those lyrics out and tell that story. A powerful breakup song played really emotively, and I love the pounding tom-tom drums in this one. Crash Test follows that one up next, and I love that line, I'm falling faster into disaster. Really cool line. A pretty dynamic track. There's some great percussive textures on this one. The next handful of tracks definitely keep the speedy vibes going until you get to Bummer. And this is easily one of the best songs on the album. It's all acoustic, and Jimmy's vocal delivery on this thing is insane. It's a tongue twister of a song, but it's got all those elements of, like, if you were at the show and they play Bummer, it's one of those like moment songs. It's like, oh, that's the one where they really want to say what they want to say. Hearts on the sleeve, cards on the table. This is the emotional song. But it still has that pop punk ethos. Definitely a track that stands out for sure in the best possible way. Lightheaded ends off the album, and it's got this resolve feeling. A track with so much pounding enthusiasm that it has to be the last song. Here's the back cover. The guys hanging out at the baseball park. And this one is limited to 200 copies on transparent blue vinyl. So here's the insert with the lyrics, which is really cool. And check out this vinyl. This record looks so sharp. The bright blue, bright yellow, see-through, so rad. The Runs is a really cool album because it keeps the pop punk feel alive in the most honest and pure way. Like, when I was getting into this music back in the day, this was the only sound there was until things kind of just started to grow naturally as all the bands progressed and producers were better, musicianship improved, songwriting abilities improved. Like, things changed over time for all those bands. Blink, Green Day, Newfound Glory, the list goes on. But what I loved about the early records and what always brought me back to them was the honesty in the performances and the emotion behind what they did because they believed in it so hard. They were so hungry to prove themselves. When you are on a big fancy label and you have all the time in the world to put an album together, the laziness can come out and the bloatedness of the songs is apparent sometimes. When you've got like 2 weeks, a handful of songs, and you're just starving to be in the studio to put this thing down and get it out there and go back to playing shows, those are the moments that matter. This album is skillfully performed. Like, they've mastered the craft of the pop punk feel. They keep in time with each other. The palm muting riffage is insane. The Tom DeLonge guitar riffs are spot on. Some of the best pop punk albums were very dry recordings, very to the point, 3-piece, one guy sings, and you get that feeling down. If I were to give any feedback on this album and maybe see what they would do on the next record, I would add vocal harmonies, honestly, because a lot of the good pop punk bands at that time had vocal harmonies, or at least two vocalists, like you think Mark and Tom from Blink trade in vocal licks. I think Jimmy's a great vocalist, and I think his delivery adds to that cool, slacker, chill, punk sort of vibe. He's like not trying to sing like a big rock and roll song, he's singing towards a pop punk song, which is actually a little harder than it seems. Because you've got to stay more focused and more controlled, and it's almost as if the music is the main instrument and the vocals are there just to add the story. What I'm trying to say is this album is really, really great. The guys are solid, they're top-notch musicians, and they really made something special here. The whole packaging, everything about this screams late 90s, and I'm all for it because for me, it's nostalgic. It sounds like when I was a kid, but they're doing it so honestly and so earnestly that it's absolutely their own. They're not just a cheap pastiche of ideas from back in the day. They're influenced by their favorite bands, but they're doing things their own way. I'm feeling a 7 out of 10 for this one, primarily because I feel like it could use a little bit more changes here and there. Like, I really like how Bummer changed up the whole vibe. If there was like another acoustic song on there, or maybe something with harmonies, or another vocalist with Jimmy at some point, I think that would work really well. It would probably beef it up to an 8 for me. But in terms of skill, artistry, and doing the genre justice, that's easily 10 out of 10. Like, they really know what they're doing. They're keeping the scene alive. They're nailing it. But yeah, probably a 7 out of 10 for me. So there you go. Scooped Up The Runs is out now. Go pick it up. Go stream it. Go see them in concert. It's a really, really wonderful album. If you're into pop punk, if you're into Blink, Midtown, Movie Life, all those bands like I mentioned before, Alkaline Trio, all those guys, you're really, really going to dig this thing. So pick it up. My name is Giggens. This has been Scooped Up The Runs. An honor to talk about this thing. Let me know what you guys think about it in the comments below. Happy to chat about it with you. And I'll see you in the next video. Take care of yourselves. See ya.